Welcome to our podcast from the ground up, where we interview startup founders exploring their journeys, their success challenges, and lessons learned. We hope you be inspired in discovering what it takes to build a thriving startup. I'm your host, Jake here in Villarreal, and excited to have with us today Vadim Peskov, founder of Diffco. Vadim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, a little bit about Vadim. Vadim is the CEO of Diffco, an advisor at Alchemist Accelerator, and numerous startups. He's an expert and speaker who combines years of experience in AI-enhanced applications, cybersecurity, VC, and product design. Being an advisor, Vadim helps startups to grow faster and find new ways to scale. Vadim, love your background, and we'll dive into what your company does, as well as some topics that are top of mind in the market today. But in terms of you, give us a little sneak peek of where you're from and how did you get into technology?
Okay, so I think let's start from like how I get to technology. Actually, I think it's something that you just built as a passion and you continue doing this. In my case, it was just from really early childhood, and I always was like, hey, I want to do something and I want to do it's in technology. And from early days, I was playing with some PCs back then and was doing something that was sometimes fun, sometimes lead to some experiences. And so originally I grew up and was born in Russia and moved here around like 10 years ago and start building my business here and enhancing everything in terms of like finding the right way and try testing different environments, because again, in a business you don't really have one ideal approach. You always need to test, and this was what I was doing for the last 10 years, still doing and testing everything.
You know, there's a lot of companies that we talk to and the founders, and it's not always about what you're building. Sometimes it's about what being an entrepreneur gives you. For you personally, what is it that being an entrepreneur does for you as just a person or as a human being, really?
I think it's quite a right question, to be honest. So being an entrepreneur is an opportunity to do your own good and to approach things from your own way of thinking. A lot of people thinking that like, hey, entrepreneurship is like freedom. It's actually not. I think entrepreneurship is kind of very nice prison. Sometimes not very nice, depending on ups and downs in your life. So I would say this depends. But the entrepreneurship is really the way of thinking, because you always want to find the best ideas, what to do and how to really make money out of this, for example, how to make it valuable. And again, make it valuable not always about the money. Sometimes it's about some engagement, sometimes it's about some relationships. And I think it's kind of not always pragmatic, and it's like mixing the logic plus emotions sometimes in the right way. Mostly logic, I hope.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, you know, as a founder, you think freedom is what it gives you. I think it gives you freedom of choice to do the things you want to do when you want to do them, as long as everything is working well. But yeah, you are in some ways kind of held hostage to making sure that the company's doing well, your employees are happy, you're building, you're growing, and in some ways, maybe it's much more work, but with maybe much more upside too if you succeed. You know, as a company, Diffco, you help organizations build products from the engineering side, mobile applications, web applications, AI applications, a lot of different areas. You're the team behind the team when it comes to engineering. In some ways, you don't have the risk as a startup. You're not raising capital. You're not on the hook if it doesn't succeed. But you are very involved in helping companies their success in bringing products to market. Where did this idea come from of starting that? Did you initially start out as a company building products and decided it was, you know, more fun to do it with other companies with more variety? Walk us through that.
Oh, it's a kind of a fun story. It was so it's, and I will skip some parts of this, but definitely will show something. So initially, it was an idea about starting a completely different thing. It was 2008, and it was a kind of crisis. If your audiences remember this part, and
2008. Yeah.
2008, yeah, it was a fun year. And we got kind of laid off from the company that was producing books back then, and I was doing some IT work. So I was basically CIO for this company specifically, and was young and a little bit stupid, and decided like, okay, so it's like we don't really have the work here, so it's like we can start the business. So it's like, wonderful, let's do this. Like first year was kind of tough, and the idea was kind of interesting because we pivoted to this idea, but originally was thinking to dive into content creation, and really push the content for the different businesses. Back then it was fun, but unfortunately, as we realized, it was a useless product for the audience that was trying to sell it. So, and we switched to software development. Back then, it was web development. And now we're switching again to AI, doing this for the last 6 years and building a lot of mobile, etc. In reality, I love this business for one specific reason. It's have some risk, obviously, in some cases, etc. But the most important thing that I just want to explain that you helping a lot of companies build products, and you can help them to build it right. Because in our case, it's not like, hey, here's a developer, you work with that. We can do this, but like in most cases, this is a little bit different dive into things and really trying to explain everything in a best way to make the product works. So this is the key part, to really understand the product, really understand the business part of the product, and really help to build on top of this. Because again, coding itself, yeah, it's fine, but like in reality, it doesn't really give you much. Or what is actually important is like making sure that the business side of things is right, and really product things is right. So we moved to these, and now I love helping different companies to really build things, just because you can really define their success by building this. And again, different approaches, different things, but again, this is the best way of putting things together there.
There's a lot of companies that are building technology today, and when they look outside of their own team and to use a team like yours, whether it's your company or other companies, what should they be thinking about? What should they be considering to make sure it's a good fit for what they're doing? And then how do they collaborate with you? How does that work?
It's a quite a right question, because in a lot of cases, the collaboration aspect is really the key. And like we defined our strategy, communication is number one point on our values and our mission to really bring the right communication to the market there. For the best approach, I think this is really, really clearly critical to have the communication right. Um, in real life, again, it's a lot of different providers, and the key is to find what answer first what you're looking for. Is a simple answer, hey, I want to build let's say a mobile application for AI that will recognize some food. I don't know why, but let's say this. And you want to understand, if you, so let's say you're a big company and you want to build this, but if you have the defined characteristics, you probably will look for some certain type of things that you want to see in your vendor, like a compliances, some training, some security, and all this kind of stuff, which is great. But in case if you're a startup, and you really probably need to have help with an actual a little bit more dive into software, understanding how the processes will work, how the actual product part will work. Because in a lot of cases, this will be a little bit unclear how this will be defined there in terms of the product part. You want to be more successful on, like really understanding how the vendor will handle a product side. Because if they just design and don't really ask questions, this is a problem, and a lot of vendors will do this. And it's kind of like solving the issue of like developing this, but it's not the success. Another point that I just want to mention, that the first version that you develop and you launch is not the version that will be successful, most likely. Like in a history of universe, typically you will find really rare uh, products that will be successful from first version. Typically it's version number 25 or something, but definitely not the first one. So the ideal condition is actually to start with one version, talk to your customers, and even talk before with your potential customer, really understand what is going on, and move to this direction slowly and test things in the best possible way. And the key here is to choose the vendor not only that can build a great product and really understand this, but also really fully understand uh, what will happen next after you launch, because this is where an actual journey begins, not when you do the initial development.
Yeah, great answer. You mentioned AI, and you've been developing AI for the last 6 years for companies. It seems to be everywhere today. And if you're not building AI into your application, it's almost like you're falling behind in some cases. I want to talk a little bit about AI in just in general terms of development. 'Cause you're in the field of engineering and development, and you see at the ground floor up how AI can impact not just companies you're helping, but also your internal people. I'm sure as from an engineering perspective, how do you see AI helping or potentially hurting development, if that makes sense?
Around like 9 months ago or so, and especially in March when ChatGPT 4 was released, everyone was like scared. Okay, it will. So we don't need a developer. We can just communicate with ChatGPT and it will write the software for us. Unfortunately, it's not the truth, at least for now. It was a great joke that like for ChatGPT to be successful in writing code, software. I mean, the clients need to really fully define the scope of work in details, which typically never happens. So I think in real life, the key here is really understand what is the point of building the software correctly there. So for AI, I would say I'm not scared that AI will take our jobs, etc. But it definitely helping. So in some cases, we build in like 30-40% of some projects using AI. But what I think it can do if you use again things correctly, you can take this AI and add it to your product and make something faster or makes features that was impossible before. And this, I think, the key here. So if you can build it correctly there, so this is the best way of doing this. And again, I'm like big fan of like really understanding if you need AI, because I have a lot of startups that come and saying like, hey, we need AI, we need to add AI here, etc. But the truth is typically not the case. So a lot of them doesn't need to have AI. It's much better to do just simple rule based, and you don't need any neural networks to do the work there. So this is totally fine. But again, when you add the AI component to your product and you add in additional value for your customers, this is, I think, where we create an actual interesting way of doing this. Another thing that I just want to mention, that AI currently creating a lot of interesting opportunity for us to really move it to a different way of creating products. So what I mean by this is AI is just a different interface. So I mean the chat interface is just different, because when you just add some component to your system, it is not really fully defining the AI there. But if you add this component specifically that will be more user friendly from chat perspective to communicate with this, so this is the best way of doing this. Because let's say searching a flight ticket, and everyone probably tried using ChatGPT plus Kayak or something like this to book a ticket. I don't know about you, but from my perspective, it is terrible experience because you want to have the much more broader picture, and you want to use Kayak itself or whatever provider you're using to really find this and see like the details, because it's really skipping a lot of important information. But again, maybe if you would just want to find something quicker and just go, sure, maybe it will work fine. But if you want to plan the complex type of trip, it's a lot of interfaces that better than chat. And again, if you want to create something correctly in terms of like chat experience, you need to fully understand what is user behavior there. It's not just like um, chatbot that you can implement wherever you want. It is much more deeper things that need to be considered to make it more successful.
With the companies you work with today and how AI is being implemented, what are the top two or three parts of AI that they want to integrate into their application or they're looking to build in so that they're relevant in today's market that maybe they didn't even think about 6, 12 months ago?
So right now, everyone want to add like probably like I would say even more as like type of components. So again, right now it's a lot of models that created every day. So it's a lot of website that you can find a model, you can play with them if you are technical savvy on this, but it's a lot of products that you can use to really like enhance the solutions of yours. So let's say you can add some image generation or image recognition. So this is what was working for the last 6 years using different models back then. But right now, the opportunities is what we have is much more robust just because of the current systems and current models that exist. So I love this. So also, if we dive into the functionalities of specifics for example, text recognition and text processing, and for example, you can push a lot of data like reports to the system and really get the best result out of this. So I think this is really successful type of things that definitely worth considering. Um, Beside this, I think is really interesting approach is any kind of like image generation or video generation or video analysis, for example. This is another great opportunity to allow this. Also, again, just chat interfaces in general to allow customers to let's say you have a CRM system or ERP system, and you want to have a C-level executive to ask question, can you show me a comparison of our sales data for this type of clients between this and the past year, and what is a prediction there? So it's again a lot of this type of functionalities that will allow you to really do the research like 10 times faster. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity to really do this in this case, because you will be able to really create. So the analytics, I think, is really interesting way of like putting things together. So basically, BI is changing, and I think this is a right direction there.
Is there any specific verticals, whether it's healthcare or finance or any area that you see that AI is really having a much quicker impact, or even companies you're working with that are bringing products to market that you're.
I mean, I would love to see more in healthcare, to be honest. Healthcare is always trying to implement something, but it's really slow typically, unfortunately, on this. And I think like a lot of people already using ChatGPT to solve a lot of problems because it's just much faster than talking to the doctor. It's kind of, I would love to have the chat GPT that will be certified by FDA, but I think it will happen next 100 years. So it's kind of like the way of doing this. But I personally big fan of like starting implementing this in sales and marketing aspect of things. So I think this is where it's faster. And I would love to see more in education. Um, and I have a lot of startups that are doing this in education. So this is the best aspect of things, I think. But it's a little bit slow in implementation, unfortunately. So it's a lot of great products there, but it's typically much slower on like pushing things to actual market. But finance is doing a lot of things behind the thing. So it's a lot of things that implemented in financial companies, but typically they will not be public on this. Yeah, so and also like ad space is going crazy with ads. So just like personally generated ads. So you will see one thing related to you, to your location, to what is going on in your life, and I will see a completely different set of keywords and really be pushed on like kind of the same product but differently.
Interesting. There's so much going on out there. This is a kind of an interesting time in the market. We're seeing companies today, at least from our experience with the clients that we're working with, is they're trying to maximize their cash flow, extend runway for their revenue, generate new revenue, maximize the people they have today on their teams. In your own company, what are some of the biggest challenges that you are trying to solve in the market?
We have a goal that we want to do 80% or more of testing, QA testing with AI. And we had a goal initially that we set up earlier this year. We set up that we will be doing this in December. Unfortunately, we're not so close on this. I think we like in some projects we like 50-60%, but again it's still not there yet. And we want to use AI for development more, because right now, again, as I said, it's like between like 25 and 35% in some cases. Sometimes it's more for simpler projects. But again, I would love to see more opportunities to really like have mix of senior engineers plus AI. So I think this is where it become really successful. So when you take the person that really can architect the system, an AI can that can run the simple writing of the code on this level. So this would be, I think, the best kind of approach. And again, this is what we're trying to solve there. From another perspective, I think a lot of challenges that happens currently in the market is related to companies trying to, again, limit their expenses by using different tools here and there. And I have a couple of folks that, for example, started firing some people just because they replaced it with AI. And right now, I think in some cases it's worth doing, again, to save the company. In reality, you can do more with AI plus people. So again, it's some jobs that will be replaced by AI, because you just don't need to push the buttons. AI can do this for you and much faster and 24/7. So this is typically will be much more efficient, I think. But I'm a big fan of like really adding humans plus AI, because again, when you're trying to replace it, I think you will not create the perfect solution from day one. So the best approach is actually to add human plus AI. So this will be something that will be more successful in this case.
Yeah, there's a lot of fears for people in different sectors where they are feeling that their jobs could be replaced, that they might have a shorter window of their career, that they're going to be pushed out, that they need to find some other type of skill sets that they can contribute in whatever job they're in. Um, you know, Businesses really are run by people. And at the end of the day, you have technologies that help solve problems, but you know, I believe that AI, I think you need to embrace it. I think it will help you do your job maybe more efficiently in a lot of different areas. I think if you don't embrace it, you're probably going to be left behind. So I think it's keep an open mind, but know that it really can be effective and help you versus run from it and not really try and understand how it can help you. And I think there's a lot of companies that are still trying to figure out really how it impacts their business. Our business, we're in the business of helping companies scale up. Funded startups get funded, and they need to hire people, and we recruit for them. And we took a look at our own internal applications, which were built by engineers out of MIT, and and we integrated AI into it. And it helped us, solve a lot of our problems, which was around speed and, reviewing resumes and being able to automate a lot of processes. And so for us, it was really helpful to really drive down our cost and also be able to do work more efficiently, and then pass that on to our clients. So it's been a real positive, but we had to pivot. And most companies, in some way, shape, or form, have to pivot too. You had your company for a while. When you started and where you're at today, what was a major pivot you went down, or a breakthrough that you realized you had to kind of go after to survive or grow, or even scale?
Oh man, uh, I think we had probably like 7, 10 different pivots that was major, and we had a lot of things that like really day by day like different. So um, I think like again like sectors on a market and like geography of the client was multiple type of pivots that we tried. We tried working with a European client. We tried working with Arabian markets, and we again end up just working here in States for multiple reasons. And again, it's a lot of benefit of like doing different markets, etc. But like in our case, we figure out okay, we want to do what is working for us, so we know what is working. So it's simple as this. In terms of like really pushing things along there, I think again we switched technology wise because initially was doing mostly things in web development. We switched to mobile, we switched to AI, we added like different type of staffing augmentation and different team augmentation models versus like just having a project approach. So this all comes down to like really creating the narrative of like what you can provide in the best of quality to your customers, because again customer will be different and the service should be different, yeah, but if you can provide the best quality for some clients, so this is I think again finding the right approach here and again testing this, because I think like the business is actually always about pivots. You try one thing, it doesn't really work, you try another thing, it doesn't really work, and you try it the third time and you're successful. Sometimes you need to try it 30 times plus, etc. So this is totally fine, because again business is not about like like thinking for a year and making the right decision. Business is like thinking about like 5 seconds making a decision, really testing something, and if it doesn't work moving to the next type of approach, because again it's a lot of things that will work and a lot of things that will not. So I don't think it make a lot of sense to like really spend time on things that will not work, but it's a long list of things.
A lot of companies today that are digital SaaS platforms, they really focus on growth marketing and digital marketing and growing their user community and their client base online. But as an investor, and we invest in companies too, we always like to understand, what are your different strategies to grow your company? As a development organization outside of online, what's your strategy of growth? How do you get new customers? What's your process of getting into new markets? What's worked for you?
Okay, so what worked? So I think it changes over time. Um, right now, we're mostly focused on inbound work and different partnerships. So I think this is what actually works best for us. I know a lot of people in the same area that like say like inbound doesn't really work for us, and partnerships too complicated, so we only do outbound. So in our cases, like yeah, we don't really big fan of outbound, so we will be pushing things into inbound work mostly. So again, this will be different. In our case, again, partnership I think what works the best, just because typically much faster sales cycles and really you have the trust of the partner already, and in a lot of cases you don't need to spend time on procurement or like something, you can just be a proxy for the partner, etc. And just like save like months on negotiation, like master service agreements that will be uh, kind of like okay, but like again, taking a lot of time to process correctly. Um, as well as I think what is really important there to understand, I think, is is not only the process of like getting these new customers. I think is staying with them for a long time. This is, I think, what is mostly important because, again, you're absolutely right that business is about relationship. Business is about people. So finding the right people and having the right people working together, I think this is where you will be having the best successes typically. So I would be saying that like, hey, if we have the opportunity to build the right relationships with the partners, we definitely will push it there because in this case, we'll have a long-standing lead flow that will be much easier to work on.
Yeah, partnerships are a great strategy for a lot of companies. I mean, if you think of Microsoft, 90% of their revenue comes through partnerships when they go out and sell products. They're not selling directly. You've got Amazon who's got, a ton of revenue that comes through affiliates and partners that they don't actually have a team selling. So I think that makes a lot of sense. When it comes to the people within companies, if you're not going to hire, there's a lot of companies that are downsizing and they're not refilling those roles. And part of it is, well, let's reduce our cost, but you also put pressure on other employees because then now they're having to take on extra work and they're not getting paid more. And, morale can change and culture ends up having some issues. A lot of companies are trying to maximize the potential of their people. And we went out and interviewed 200 chief people officers to understand how do you maximize the people that are in your company. And we were hoping for a silver bullet answer. This is if you do these things, you're going to improve your people. And no one had an answer to that question. And it was more about doing an analysis of how they do their job today and then looking at how you can improve how they're maybe doing it through education or training and training and development, performance management, or some of the terms that are used in HR. But that wasn't really something we were satisfied with because we get asked this all the time from our customers. How do we maximize the people we have? And so we went out on a technology search and we actually found a few companies that can do this now with AI. And you can take your current teams, more importantly, if they're remotely, which you don't always know what they're doing, and you can embed technology into the systems that you use, and you could see the habits and the way the A players are going about their business, whether it's developers or sales reps or marketers, and you could see what they typically do, what their day looks like, from the systems they're logging into to the processes they do to how much time they're spending online versus offline. And ultimately you see the patterns that you can then take that and show that to them, but also show that to the other people in your company, the B players, the C players, and you can then realize what it is that's working for your top producers. And so these are platforms that are AI has been built for. They can track 150 points within how you behave. And ultimately, that to us is a much better data-driven solution than your gut feel and assessing people through reports. Have you seen systems out there today, or have you worked on systems that are gravitating towards improving and maximizing how people work through applications?
I think you're asking quite a right question here, and I love this. So I think it all comes down to really finding the understanding again what type of role and what they performing, and the data-driven approach. I think is really important because, like, it's all saying that data is not lying. It's kind of like not true 100% of the time, but most of the time it will be true. And I'm like I'm a big fan of like tracking things. For example, I have a couple of apps that I'm using to track my sleep, and I know my energy cycles based on this. And for example, if I put a really important task for me in a, let's say, late part of the day where my energy cycle is low, I don't think I will be successful in this task. I will probably procrastinate and will not be successful. Yeah. And again, I'm tracking, and I know this because I have a lot of data based on like probably like 2 years of like these patterns, etc. So I have all this, but the truth is, a lot of people doesn't really track this, and I think it's really important to show these patterns, etc., and explain this. But also, I think it comes down to an actual like people happiness and really being successful in what's going on. So I think this is really the key here, to really put things along and make sure that what is going on there is right things. I think so. I would say that, hey, to have the actual people happy internally with things that they do, and really having the right company culture to really make sure that everything else is good, because sometimes it's a personal thing that will affect people, and it's best to communicate this properly, because again, if you don't have this thing set up, it will not be so easy to do.
You brought up a good point. As we kind of come to the end of this interview here, the culture of a company really starts with the leaders that we believe, and what you do and what you say, people follow. What type of culture have you manifested at your current company, Diffco?
So it is quite easy. We tried many things, and we end up saying the communication is the most important thing. So, and we say communication, communication, and communication. So just communicate clearly with your customers, with your colleagues. And I think this is the key aspect that we're trying to push there, because if we have the right setup in terms of like how we clearly communicate with everyone, this is actually what is allowing us to really create the best approaches and have this wonderful relationship with the customers. Because when we have the unclear communication, everything else is broken down, etc. And we can build on top of this and really add other values after this. But the key aspect to really start with a simple approach on really creating the right communication structure and really be clear on what is going on. And after, you can really create the big values that you're really interested to doing.
Really great. Well, I know you're located in the U.S. today, and you have people all over the world. If someone wants to find you or find your company, where would they go to do that?
It's quite simple. It's just diffco.us, and you can find us also on LinkedIn and on Twitter as well. But yeah, just going directly to website is typically the best way of doing this.
Great. Well, Vadim, thanks so much for joining here. I know that you had to carve out time in your day to spend it with us, and I really appreciate that, as well as all the listeners out there listening. It means the world to us that you've taken your time to come and on this journey with us today as well. As we look in the future, Vadim, it'd be great to hear about how things are going with you and your company and AI and how it transforms not just the development world, but our world. And if you're a company out there that's developing technology and applications, and you don't have your full team, or you want to augment or add more people to your team in a service that is becoming well known, think of Diffco. Think of a company that can help you as you scale and grow, and do it in a way that's going to make you successful. Until the next episode, I'll catch up with you all then, and appreciate your time today.
Bye-bye.
Vadim, have a good one. Before we wrap up, I want to give a big shout out to all the entrepreneurs that have joined to make this podcast possible, and for all the listeners for listening. It means the world to me that you chose to spend your time with us today. I'm your host, Jake Aaron Villarreal, signing off for now, but can't wait to connect with you all soon on the next episode. Take care. This show is sponsored by Match Relevant, a company that helps venture-backed startups find the best people in the market, and they do it in 3 simple steps. First, they sit down with founders to understand their story. Second, they tell their story into multiple candidate channels. And third, they schedule interviews within 48 hours. Find us at matchrelevant.com to learn more about how we do it.